Hello citizens and welcome back. In today's video I would like to share some of my thoughts on the Siege of Orison dynamic event that came out in Alpha 3.17.2. As always, if you like this video, sacrifice a like to the YouTube algorithm and subscribe for more, and don't forget to leave a comment for the algorithm as well. And here is a shout out to our amazing patrons for their support of the channel and the armory. Also, a small PSA, the channel is now eligible for channel memberships, so please let me know if that's something you would be interested in and what kind of perks would you like to have with the memberships. Before we get into the video, the Siege of Orison event is still running in the verse until August 11th, so go check it out if you can. The schedule is posted on Spectrum and the event is actually quite fun and brings some new content, when it works. Let's start with what's good about the event. Very simply put, it's fun. It has a very interesting mix of FPS gameplay, ship combat and area traversal. I think that both new and veteran citizens are enjoying it. But most importantly, it promotes players forming ad hoc groups to try and finish the mission, which is something that I love to see during an event in the verse. There are also many opportunities to loot rare weapons from boxes placed around the mission area. The mission rewards are also pretty good, which allows players to regain lost funds very quickly. Also, this weekend CIG are testing a PTU patch that will address many of the issues with the siege and the game in general. Most importantly, elevator bugs and issues with mission progression. They also added some friendly AI to the platforms, which makes the mission easier to do with less players, though it kind of negates some of the scripted dialogue going on as you approach the mission. The overall performance also seems to be much better in the PTU, so we will see if that translates into live as well. I was actually able to complete the mission in the PTU for the first time since the last PTU test. So good job CIG. It is a bit late for the mission fixes, but the event will run until August 11th, which gives everyone plenty of time to try the event with the fixes if the patch goes live soon. Now, there are a few not so good things about the siege. I think the most prominent one for me is that FPS AI simply doesn't have the same skill level as ship AI. Now, both aren't great, but FPS AI just feels more derpy and random. Though in the PTU I've seen less issues with the enemies teleporting all over the place. Also, having an event like this where players need to fight FPS AI gives CIG a lot of information on what needs to be improved. And I think that in the future iterations of the siege, the AI will create a much bigger challenge. Another issue that myself and other players have encountered with the event is the fairly low amount of guidance and objective markers. Now, this is not necessarily bad. The mission gives you enough guidance to figure out where to go and what needs to be done. But that's about it, and with the size of the mission area, some additional markers could be useful. One solution I see is CIG adding optional or side objectives to the mission. For example, capturing the security office on the platform and reactivating the camera system, which will reveal the Ninetales Lieutenant. Basically giving us smaller objectives that we can complete on the way to completing the main objective and giving us an advantage. Another issue is that there are no good spots to safely rearm and get ready for the next stage. In the current state of the event, if you need to resupply or need to get medical attention, you have to go all the way back to the first platform and take the shuttle back to Orison, which can take up to 30 minutes if you have to fight your way back and forth. Small note here, there are medical beds scattered around the area, but they will only treat the lowest tier injuries as far as I know. Now, I have seen a lot of very interesting solutions being suggested on Spectrum. My favorite by far is that once a platform is cleared, Crusader security would land or dock a ship or a barge to it. The barge would have access to higher tier medical facilities for you to heal your injuries and would allow access to the Orison inventory for resupply and storing loot, or it would have a kiosk to buy basic ammo and supplies. This does create several extra points of failure, but if the event is brought back many times like Xenothreat, it could be a very welcome addition. Moving on to AI reinforcements. I actually have two big issues here. First, AI coming out of spawn closets is nice, and on platforms still controlled by Ninetales it even makes sense. But we have the technology to bring AI reinforcements with ships, and I think this would make more sense overall and would provide an excellent testing ground for the feature. Also, it would give players a better chance to defend themselves against reinforcements if the new enemies had to fly in and land at a suitable location, rather than coming out of random doors behind you. Now, the second issue I see could be a bug. Basically, in the first PTU tests, once you disabled the IFFI on a platform, the enemies would stop respawning on it. In the live build they respawn, and they also respawn in the current PTU build, which is supposed to be fixed. So I'm not sure if this is intended or a bug. So please share your opinions on this in the comments. Now, it makes sense to me that the Ninetales would be trying to take back the platforms they lost. On the other hand, disabling the IFFI should make it impossible for Ninetales to bring in reinforcements directly to the platform. I feel like I'm either misunderstanding the story and lore elements behind the event, or there is a bug. But at the same time, it would be very cool to see the reinforcements being flown in, because we have the technology. And now on to my final point, level design. It's not a critical issue, but I'm sure that players who play other FPS games have also noticed that there are many choke points on the platforms, and many are on paths that players are required to take to make progress to the mission. Not only that, these choke points tend to have enemy spawn closets all around them, which makes the problem worse. There is no immediate fix to this besides changing the layout of the levels, which is not possible. In conclusion, the Siege of Orison is a very good event, especially after the hotfixes to live and once the latest PTU patch goes live as well. It does have its issues, but personally that doesn't take away from the enjoyment. We have to keep in mind that the Siege is almost as big, if not bigger, in terms of active AI as Xenothreat, so performance issues are to be expected. I was also initially worried that the event platforms may not be used for anything besides reruns of the event. But with the latest roadmap update, we know that they will be used for missions, and I'm very excited to see that. I guess my final concern isn't limited to the Siege itself. It's rather about the very busy event schedule that CIG created for the first 2 weeks of the patch. The primary reason for that decision is to make sure players make back their lost money and to drive activity. But I can't help but feel that CIG should have spread the events out a bit more over the course of the entire patch. And maybe that would prevent some of the issues we're having, and maybe would improve player activity in the long run. With that being said, that's it for tonight. What do you think? Are you enjoying the event? What is the biggest issue you have with it? Let me know in the comments. Fly safe, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the verse.